Welcome back to Robbing Minds. Now, December is that time when we see a lot of families bond over movies. There's an uptake in cinema attendance. We hear sold out. And if you probably go on one of the popular days, you will find out that you might have to wait till the next viewing time to watch your favorite movie. And a lot of film producers make real work towards ensuring that families are entertained. So there's a bit for everyone to stay entertained during this period. Now, to discuss the joys of December and how it relates with the creative economy, cinema-going culture, and even the viewing experience of our African stories on screen, I have with me the Chief Content Officer at Film One, Ladun Awobukun. Welcome to Robbing Minds.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Ladun. So what is it about December when it comes to the cinemas? Like, I'm sure you see record numbers, and it's not just even for one genre of movie, it's across the cinema halls. I've had the situation where you have to wait till a movie becomes available. You're forced to watch what is available at that period. So why December against other months?
I think generally as people, we like to enjoy ourselves and have fun. And especially with families, when you think of December generally, irrespective of what demographic you're in, December is like for family. It is time that you spend with your children or time that you spend with your spouses, if that relates. And that has now translated to cinema, because cinema has now become one of the lifestyle options that people would make in those decisions. I mean, relatively it's cheaper than just going to a regular restaurant, especially if you live in Lagos, right? So you see a lot of people that perhaps their offices have closed on the mid-December, and this is the option that they will pick. Let's take the children with, if you have any help, to go see a movie. You have some popcorn, you have a few drinks, and then the films are now bigger during that holiday time. We also have the people that come back home, the IJGBs that come during December, and that makes it fun because you see people that perhaps you haven't seen in a year or in a few months, and everyone just sort of has fun. So December is for that sort of enjoyment, and over the years we've seen it grow in a linear fashion, actually, December to December.
Okay. And what does that mean for cinema owners? What does that mean for creators or filmmakers, people across the value chain? Is it just about cash out season? Is there a way they can leverage on successes to drive that uptake throughout the years, even when the IJGBs go back and the offices resume?
Absolutely. Obviously, you're going to leverage on it, right? Last year, December performance in cinema, just based on box office revenue, was 20% of the entire year, just that month. So when that happens, you leverage on it, right? But what you say is right. We want to create other experiences on other months, because the cinema is open all year round, right? And that's what a lot of people are doing, both filmmakers and cinemas. They're creating things around the holidays, because again, the holidays, most people are working. I was reading something that said that even people are working longer now. When we're much younger, our parents only stopped work at late 50s, early 60s. Now people are working longer, right? But in the holidays, people typically have some time off. So whether it's Easter, whether it's Eid, whether it's Christmas, we're creating experiences, and a lot of cinemas and filmmakers are creating films or content for that period to leverage on that, family bonding time, and to leverage on the numbers. So it's not only cash, although I mean these are all businesses and they do need to they do need to make profit, but it's also building those experiences that, because of how busy our lives are, we may not be able to sort of do or achieve at another time.
A lot of movies come out during this period. Here in Lagos, for example, you see different billboards carrying different movies. Filmmakers are already doing the marketing rounds. And it's not just the cinemas. We're now seeing the streaming platforms. We're also seeing social media platforms like YouTube. We're seeing a lot of people leverage on that period of December of merriment and festivity. And I wonder, does this mean competition, or is there a way for both to leverage each other?
I would say a bit of both. There have been collaborations that have happened in these seasons, and that's what we like to promote. We like that. But then there's competition, and that's normal. I think that as it happens in the cinema culture, I would say it even happens in fast-moving consumer goods as well during those periods. So there's competition, but people are collaborating as well. There's definitely enough for everyone to sort of enjoy. And although this year we are seeing a mammoth number of films coming out in all the Decembers that we have had, we've never had this number of big films coming. So, I mean, it's touch and go. There are a few forecasts on how people think that it will play out this year. But I mean, I guess we'll see. You know, but yeah.
And you know, with the cinema, it means movies, it means revenue for filmmakers, but it also means revenue for people in the food sector, like you said, popcorn, drinks, and then there's the whole merchandising and the add-on experiences now with cinemas offering restaurants and offering opportunities to do your birthday and the rest. What does this mean for our GDP? What does this mean for the creative economy? Is investing in the cinema culture a viable option, and should this be encouraged by the government?
100%. I think that much more than anything else, especially in this particular ecosystem, this is content that is created on the soil for the people on the soil, like it is done here. So everything, you can see that people are taking attention to it because the films are getting better, the stories are getting much stronger, and people locally, there's this new word everyone is saying, local to glocal, which means global and local together, because people internationally are taking notice, and people locally that typically won't watch Nollywood are now, it is now a valid option. Like there's Mufasa, and then there's Everybody Loves Jennifer, and people are like, okay, which one am I going to watch, because it's just as good, you know. So when that sort of thing happens locally, when filmmakers are providing, or rather creating content that is so good that it is now a, should we watch Hollywood or Nollywood this year or this month, that's when I feel like the government should take notice, because this is, number one, the number of jobs that it's creating with people employed in the cinemas, the number of people, the vendors that we're using, whether it's people creating chairs or fixing the lights in the cinemas, or people serving, like whether it's popcorn, yogurt, all of that, the people that are doing the tickets as well, the number of hands that are using to build the premieres. There's so much going on in this time that, and a lot of it is bootstrapped. A lot of it is people just sort of funding privately. There are some initiatives that have been set up, but they're not enough. We're too many, and there are too many creators. So, but when the government steps in, there will be, even globally, will be looked at differently.
And what's the potential like? Because I know in more developed climes, like say California as a state alone, not even the entirety of the US, you know, there's a huge part of their revenue that comes from that Hollywood cinema culture, movie making. So what can we look at in Nigeria? What's that potential for the creative economy when it comes to cinema and movie making?
The potential is, it's definitely in millions and millions of dollars. I would say somewhere in the range of 100 million at least. Because if you look at Lagos alone, let's even just look at Lagos, in the cinema culture, there's 45% of everyone that goes to the cinema in terms of box office revenue is from Lagos. A lot of the films are made in Lagos. A lot of creatives move to Lagos. It doesn't mean that it's not happening in Asaba and in the north, in Kannywood, which is the northern films, is also doing well. The potential is, and people are using little to get a lot. What they're looking for is, believe in us, give us that investment and see what we can do with it. And the few filmmakers that have gotten access to that have shown that this is what happens when you put money in, or this is what happens when we get a bit of belief in it. You see things that are competing internationally. You have some Nollywood films that have been #1 on like for the streaming in Korea and stuff like that. It's because some investment was put into them, and that exposure has created that avenue for them to also perform on a global scale. That is very, very, very possible, especially with things that are local languages, whether it's Yoruba or Ibibio or Hausa. That is where the potential, I would say, sits for me.
Now, I want us to move back to the rivalry between, say, the streaming platforms, the digital platforms, and the cinemas. Because for you to go to a cinema, you have to spend money on your transport. When you get there, you probably have to buy food, and then you have to wait, maybe pay for parking. Meanwhile, if you just pay for a streaming platform, you can take your time to watch. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to spend any extra money. And same thing for even the free-to-air digital platform. So what can cinemas do to make it more enticing for people to spend that extra money? Like, what's the difference? Because it's still the same movie they're coming to watch when you think about it.
I mean, I won't say there's a rivalry. I would say that they complement each other. There's space for the SVODs, which is the subscription VODs, Netflix, Prime, etc. There's space for the cinema, which is the cinema experience. There's space for the AVOD free content on YouTube, etc. But what makes cinema special is the experience, is that sitting sitting at home, whilst it's comfortable and you're at home, etc., you can't compare it to the sound that is coming from a screen, from a cinema screen, or the visual. There's something that, like, I was watching one Marvel, I think it was Deadpool and Wolverine, and the comments from like 100 different people. I don't know how many people have living rooms that 100 people can sit in, but the comments from there, the reaction, and then the popcorn is nicer when you get it in the cinema. So that's my opinion. No, but I think that it's the experience that is what it is, and a lot of the big cinemas right now also have restaurants. Some even have the facilities where you can even eat whilst watching the film as well. So what cinema is selling is a certain level of convenience, because again, you don't have to cook it at home. It's the experience of bonding, whether it's with your friends, with your family, and then you don't have to clean after because somebody's doing that. And it is the sound, it is that experience. So yeah.
Let's look at the numbers now, because we've seen a movie cross ₦1 billion mark. Is that what we're going to expect this year? What are the financials showing for this year up until December? And what are the projections? Are we looking to cross the 2 billion mark for one movie, 3 billion? Speak to us about that.
Yeah, so last year we had one movie crossed actually we had two, Wakanda Forever, 1 billion, and Tribe Called Judah did 1.4 billion. This year, I think that definitely the 2 billion mark is definitely in play. Last year, we had 3 major Nollywood films release, and I think 2 major Hollywood films release. This year, we have 5 Nollywood films releasing, and they're all big films. And then we also have a king, which is Mufasa. You have to think about it, that Lion King, which released in 2019, did 300 million in cinemas. So when it comes again in 2024, you can imagine how that's going to be. And you have Sonic, that always does well in cinema. So we have about at least 7 big films. If there are a few scenarios that can play out in terms of, say, in the perfect world, all of them maximize and all of them sort of do well based on what it is that's expecting. But I would say that is a less likely situation. What is more likely is that there will be 3, maybe 4 that would outperform all the others. And that's typically what happens in all the other years that this has played out. But the 2 million mark and over the 2 million mark is certainly in play. Sorry, 2 billion, I beg your pardon. 2 billion mark is certainly in play. And who knows, maybe we'll see another 1 billion as well, film go on. I think that is going to be, like I was saying, last year, December alone did 1.7 billion. In fact, post-COVID, all the Decembers that we've had, 21, 22, 23, have all done 1 billion, at least over 1 billion. Last year was 1.7 billion, and ticket prices were maybe 3,600 per ticket. Right now, we are forecasting that the ticket prices will be around 5,500. If you just do the math of that, you can see that we will be close to a 3 billion month. So we're going from a 1.7 billion month, December 2023, to a possible 3 billion month in December. So it's exciting times that all of us are just looking at the numbers
and smiling to the bank.
Well, I hope, that's the hope. And whether it's filmmakers, whether it is cinema owners, even the people that are the vendors that are selling food as well, the hope is that everyone sort of makes bank this year, just because it's been a tricky year. So it'll be good for all of us to smile.
Now, I want you to weigh into something like some of the streaming platforms that have come into Nigeria have changed strategies, whether it's to focus less on producing originals, or to focus on other markets, or to just focus on getting content licensed. So that means take your movie to the cinema, it does well, we might decide once to put it on the platform or not. What are the implications for cinema owners, but at the same time for filmmakers who maybe had their hopes on going on reaching a global audience? Because the cinema audience is still reaching a local audience.
So my thoughts on that is, look, for studios, especially people that do the big projects, what that means is that people will just produce fewer films, but bigger films. It's the only thing that makes sense, because you don't want to go back to the point where you are now making films that, from a quality production value point of view, it can't actually go global. So our expectation is that the number of films that are produced maybe per studios would reduce, but the quality of the films would still remain the same or bigger. In terms of reaching internationally, the opportunity is still there, whether it's through global theatrical platforms, which is you're going to cinemas abroad, and also the streamers as well. The opportunity is not, it hasn't vanished. It's just been restructured, you know, so. That's my take on it.
And are you seeing people coming to collaborate more? Because like one of the biggest films, like The Wedding Party, Correct. Was the coming together of 4 different companies. Is that something you're expecting to see?
100%, and we're already seeing it. We're having those conversations. Everyone is, you know, that diversified risk mentality, which is, I still want to do this big film, but there's no chance that I'm taking this risk on my own. So we're seeing that more, and I think that rolling into the first half of 26, we are going to see that happen with a lot of big IPs or big filmmakers, and that really is the way it's what is done globally. So maybe this is what needed to happen for all of us to come together a bit more. So whether it is co-producing films or co-distributing films, I expect that would be a pattern, somewhat of a pattern going into 25.
And we know that cinema screens are still comparably low. Yeah. So what is the plans for, say, a cinema chain as yours, which has the largest across Nigeria, to expand into other regions? Are these only based on commercial facts, like, oh, if we go into this city, this is how much we can make? Or is there other reasons why you might feel we need to open more cinemas to reach more audiences? Or like, I'll like to look at the example you gave of Ibibio, for example. You want to do an Ibibio language movie, you need to have cinemas in places where Ibibio is Correct. Spoken, and not just one cinema.
Yeah. The factor that goes into that, and believe it or not, it's not cash first. It is the audience. It is, we do a lot of polls and a lot of exit polling on how old are the people that predominantly live in those cities, and that's what guides the decision. Because the people that would make that conscious decision to go out and pay 3,000, 5,000, 7,000 naira for a ticket is a certain age. It's the millennials, actually. It's usually that 26 to 35, or maybe 25 to 35 age. So it's a play of, are these cities that have universities in them? Are these cities that have college of education in them? So those sort of decisions is what really drives where we put the cinemas, or where we suggest to do the cinemas. The next phase is where it now gets commercial, because cinemas are very, very expensive to set up. So and then they're set up, your costs are literally dollarized because the projectors are not made in Nigeria.
And I think that's where government needs to come in.
Thank you, that was my next point. Yes, that's where we need the government. Once we're able to get that support, you would see so many cinemas come up so quickly. And that helps. It means that we can make our money in Nigeria and not really rely on anyone else.
Okay, thank you very much, Ladun Awobukun, Chief Content Officer at Film1, for your contributions. And good luck with 3 billion and counting at the box office.
Thank you very much.